Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Hey, welcome into the latest episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball, the episode for which I am as or more excited as I have been for any episode in recent memory. Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Maughan in New York City. Benjamin Hill and Sam Dykstra. Dudes, what's going on? How are you?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Yeah, this is an exciting episode, Tyler. Something we've been talking about doing for a long time now. And, we got some people heeded our call after last week, and we've got a lot to talk about on this week's show. That isn't necessarily like all minor league news, but it's like a lot to dig into in a very, very fun way.
Yeah, I like that description. It's an episode that we first did, the concept we first executed a couple of years ago at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. This is our first in-season version of this episode in which we are going to dream up and create a fictional minor league team. And we took your submissions. We're very excited about it. Benjamin Hill, somebody who has more experience than everyone with all of the identities across minor league baseball. What's the excitement level on your radar today, Ben?
I'm pretty excited. I think I'm a little sluggish just in life itself right now. So I'm just trying to get fired up right now, trying to raise those excitement levels to an appropriate amount. But I do love doing this kind of thing. I mean, you're right. I've probably seen more baseball team logos than just about anybody over the last almost 20 years. But that said, I would say, despite all that, I think Tyler, you're probably a bigger logo guy than I am in terms of studying them
Nerdery.
and having the hats and that kind of thing. And Sam's obviously no slouch, so we all have a lot of. I mean, sometimes we do call him Slouch and Sam, but not in relation to minor league baseball team.
Just his posture, sitting in a chair.
Come on, fine, Sam. I'll sit up. Jeez.
Well, we're super pumped to bring you this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. You can get in touch with us, as so many people did, podcast at MiLB.com. You can also tweet at the fellas, at Ben's Biz, at Sam Dykstra, MiLB. You can follow minor league baseball at MiLB as well. And of course, get in touch with your thoughts about not only this episode, but all the rest. I also had the weirdest dream last night about, I've been off of Twitter for a little while now. I had a dream last night about the way that you could get your archived tweets was like some old steampunk machine that printed them all out on small pieces of paper. It was the most bizarre dream that I have had in a very long time. Anyway, it's great content is when people tell you about nonsensical dreams they had. All right, well, let's dive into this. We got dozens and dozens of team ideas submitted to the Show Before the Show podcast. We have a Google spreadsheet of all of them. And Sam, how do we want to structure this? We're going to go through segment number one. We're going to go through a lot of these and just kind of discuss what we had submitted from people, some of the unique ones, some of the creative ones. Then we're going to talk a little bit later about our top finishers, and we're going to narrow it down. We have not decided on what we're going to go with as of yet. You are going to hear that live recorded on this podcast coming up a little while later. How do we want to kick this thing off, Sam?
I think we just go around the circle. We've highlighted some of our favorites already. So Tyler, we'll start with you. Just choose one of your favorites and kind of break down why you think it's a good pick. Not necessarily like all of these aren't going to be candidates for various reasons, and we can talk about that as we go along. But a lot of these were very creative, and again, thank you to everybody who submitted them.
Yes.
So Tyler, just pick one that you really like and say why.
Yeah, and before Tyler does that, we talked about this last week, but I think we should say yet again that, as Tyler, you mentioned, we did this once before in 22 going into 23, and the one we ended up going with was Austin Knights, spelling it Nights.
Thanks to Chad Miller.
Thanks to Chad Miller who submitted that. And got some great logos put together based around that concept of the Austin Knight with the bats rising out from beneath the bridge over the water there in Austin. Was it the Congress Street Bridge? And we still Congress to this Avenue, day, I believe. Yeah, we will get emails and Twitter mentions saying like, when are those going to be available? So because we procrastinate and because there's just a lot of hoops to jump through with that kind of thing that we have not surmounted, now we're just saying we're going to keep doing this and create a whole collection and then release the collection. That's the plan. Maybe we'll start a GoFundMe, quit this specific job and we'll just
create fictional teams and sell the merch.
Yeah, I think that's feasible. So,
I will say, like, if the Round Rock Express wanted to reach out and license the Austin Knights and play as an alternate identity, there's just down the road, they're honoring the state capitol, they're doing all that. I'm sure that we would find it in our hearts to make that happen. And potentially, same with the closest geographic team to whatever we select today. Maybe this is the new thing in MiLB.
I think it very well could be. So, with that, Tyler, sorry to interrupt. Let's start it out with you.
Well, there are so many good ones, and unfortunately, we could not select all of them. There were handfuls of team names that, there were a few that like, we probably can't say on air, and there were a few that were just like the most ridiculous things you've ever heard in your life in a good way. But there are some that just like thread the needle very well, and one of them that I think really hits on a very strong minor league baseball note. And we're going in no specific order. This is just the first one that grabbed my eye from the spreadsheet, but from longtime listener and fan and friend of the show, Matt Polanski at Matt Polanski1. The Sturgis, although he later amended this to Rapid City, South Dakota, because that's the larger population center. But I'm going to go with the Sturgis Hog Riders. Obviously, the tie-in there. The Sturgis Bike Rally. I just can already see that logo with like a big fat hog on a, like a pig, on a motorcycle, and like the wheels are baseballs, and he's got like a baseball cap on, and maybe the handlebars are bats, and he's got cool sunglasses and all that. I mean, that's a pretty good one. Sturgis Hog Riders is very much like if somebody came out with that as an alternate identity, even though we don't have a team in South Dakota, that would be like a very, that makes sense. I like that one. That jumped out to me real quick.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. And maybe there's motorcycle rallies happening in other minor league towns that we don't know of. There are 119.
There probably are. Myrtle Beach has Bike Week.
Right.
Which is like chaos.
Yeah, as you said on the show before, I believe.
Yeah.
Or we've talked about it before. So, yeah, no, that's a good one. The one that jumped out to me was because we talked about this last week in terms of like setting the parameters of the show. We're not going to bring back old logos or old team names, but somebody actually submitted this, and I don't know if they forgot that it was a team or they just thought, this would be a great pun because it was the Casper Ghosts.
Yes.
Now we can't do the Casper Ghosts, but somebody, Stuart Deck, submitted via email the Lexington Spirits, which obviously ties into the whiskey nature of Kentucky and their how important whiskey is to that area. Bourbon in particular. Yeah. But also I just love the idea of like turning that into a ghost logo. Like
that is really good. Some of the best identities in all of sports are like that double entendre, kind of like spirits and also spirits.
I envision a bottle of whiskey at the bottom of the logo with a ghost coming out of the top. Just
I like that.
There we go. They see, there it is. Yeah, something like that. And we can bring back the glow in the dark caps. Like, wouldn't that be fun? I know that some teams have used them. Asheville has used them on the moon logo, but like another glow in the dark hat would be really neat. I don't know if you guys saw, there was a game played.
Yes.
Like under black lights. I'm not saying we're going to do that for a minor league team, but like the Lexington Spirits certainly could do that. And a few shots of whiskey or bourbon in particular would help with that experience too, I'm sure. But Lexington Spirits, I really like the double meaning there and the way we could have fun with people of all ages for that one. So that
is a really good one.
Out for me from Stuart Deck. What about you, Ben?
Also, the Casper Ghost, my favorite identity of all time. Ben, go for it.
Yeah. I don't know what my favorite identity of all time is, but we did get a lot of good submissions for this one. So many places to start. Jack McGuinn. I've spoken with Jack before. He's in high school, and he and his friend are working on a great minor league baseball themed school project in a national competition and getting pretty far with it. But anyway, he said the Huntington Hellbenders, with a little explanation and a photo. It's a name based on the species of giant salamanders known as hellbenders that occupy the rivers of the eastern U.S., including my city of choice, Huntington, West Virginia, hoping this gets chosen. I guess Huntington is now home. They're not using the name Huntington, but the new Appy League team, the Tri-City Coalcats, is based there.
Which not an affiliated team. It's a partner league city, so it kind of gets around our designation.
Yeah, we have some. Yeah, we kind of have to thread the needle on these, and we don't have a charter in terms of what can and can't be used. But Jack sent along some pictures of these hellbenders in question, and when I think of salamanders, I think of little fellas I found under rocks as a kid, near creeks and whatnot that were 3 inches maybe. One of my earliest memories is seeing half a salamander still wriggling around because my cat had the cat we had when I was a little kid had attacked and I guess killed it. But I remember in the corner of the living room finding half a salamander, just the tail still twitching back and forth.
Why was it in your living room?
I think the cat brought it in. Found it in the backyard and brought it in. But these hellbenders are massive. They'd probably win a fight with a cat. Kind of prehistoric looking salamanders, and they're called hellbenders. So I just think of this one encircled by flames, arising from the depths or bowels of hell, if you will, and ready to wreak havoc on the baseball diamond and perhaps elsewhere. So,
I also feel like hellbender, much like the Devin Williams pitch, the Airbender. I feel like Hellbender could be a sweet alternate pitch nickname. And
maybe that's what we call Paul Steen's Splinker now.
I like that idea.
I had an opportunity to name that pitch and I didn't.
Yeah, what the heck, Sam?
I know.
That'd be a great name for a pitch. And as I've complained in the past, we got to get off these awkward, stupid sounding portmanteaus of combining 2 different words. So yeah, wouldn't you rather have a guy throwing a Hellbender than a Splinker? Come on.
Hellbender is way cooler. Sorry, Sam. That one, I mean, I had never heard of a Hellbender before. That really is that's a pretty damn cool name.
Yeah. And I could see the hat so clearly too when you're talking because it's got the alliteration of H's.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a fiery salamander. Yeah. Then we could do 2 of them to make an H on the hat or something like that, or it's bent in a certain way because they are so long. And
that is very cool.
I'm grateful that we got a picture of these things too, because
that helped, because some of these submissions were about things that I didn't know too much about and were a little hard to figure out.
Which is the great thing about this too, though, right? A team name should be educational for lots of people.
Yeah, exactly.
How many times have we heard about alternate identities and then we have to rush to what does this actually mean? What the heck is this?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Opelousas stomach Steinways. I don't have a specific reference. I think a stomach Steinway is an old song or maybe a type of Steinway piano.
That's what I thought is this related to the pianos?
That was submitted by @16BSBL on Twitter, who came up with quite a few good ones, but that was one of the more obscure.
Stomach Steinway is an accordion.
Stomach Steinway.
Okay. That makes sense because you played against your stomach. I get it.
That's the way I'm taking it.
Yeah, and I guess there's a song called Steinway Stomach Man. There's some sheet music.
That's what they used to call me in college. Am I right, folks? Stomach Steinway.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. He also came up with the Tillamook High Cheddar, which I think is fantastic as a baseball term and also a cheese producing place. Tillamook. First place I ever tried cheese curds was at the Tillamook factory, and they terrified me with the way they squeak. It was a little weird. I felt like I was eating a live creature. I also enjoyed, just to continue throwing out some of these, the Salem Witches, which just feels like an obvious connection. It was actually initially listed, and this is from Stuart Deck, and Stuart actually submitted these along with maybe his son, Stuart and Jacob Deck, from Arlington, Massachusetts. The Salem Witches he submitted as witches/wizards. So it could be either of those. But it feels like kind of an obvious one, but man, what a great, you could come up with such an awesome logo for the Salem Witches. Now, that being said, all the killing of innocent women in the 1600s in Salem, Massachusetts, probably not the greatest thing for us to highlight. But man, I mean, that would be an awesome logo to come up with.
Yeah, and it'd be more celebratory of these women who were deemed witches and
Right.
serving as a modern day reminder against social contagion, which we still see today. We are not burning people at the stake, but I do believe mob mentalities go way too far in our culture. And so let this be a cautionary tale as well as a good logo.
One time I was super bored during a broadcast on the road in Salem, Virginia, the team that I worked for, the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, playing against the Salem Red Sox. And I went off on a tangent about how, I think I've told this story on the show before, about how, being in Salem, there was such little recognition of all the witches that had been killed there. I was kind of surprised by it. And a guy emailed in just not getting the joke at all. And he was like, that's Massachusetts. And I was like, I know. That's like 10-1 in the third inning. I'm just trying to get through this broadcast. So that would be the Salem, Massachusetts, which is not to be confused with the Salem, Virginia Red Sox. Another one, guys, that I just want to throw out there, and this came to us from John Ho, and this team would be located in a place that I've been before, Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is home to a Northwoods League team, I believe. The Superior Self-Esteem. The name is so great, and the three of us had kind of like different ideas of like, how would you even make this into a logo? But the fact that it is that much of a unique challenge sounds kind of fun. Plus I feel like all three of us, well, Ben and I especially, maybe not Sam, struggle with our self-esteem. So this seems like something that would be very good for us. I think this would be a good exercise.
I will say Thunder Bay was my addition because I was trying to think of like
where would we put closest? This team. Okay.
Yeah, like what is a major city on Lake Superior in which we could put this? Maybe there are other ones, but Thunder Bay, considering it has like a baseball connection. Tyler, you've been there to call games. I mean,
yeah,
there's a real
play in that adorable ballpark, Port Arthur Stadium. They could play there.
Yeah. The one thing I'll throw out there is like, maybe this is something we change too, is instead of superior self-esteem, what about the superior egos?
I
don't know. It takes away the alliteration, but it also shortens it and keeps it.
I mean,
the logo could be Sigmund Freud.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Egos is a better standalone name. Like, let's go Egos. Like, yeah. Let's go self-esteem. Hey, I'm a member of the self-esteem. The self-esteem won today, or they lost, but it wasn't.
More days than not for me, it's a loss, let me tell you.
Yeah, so self-esteem is an awkward word, but ego I also think has negative connotations that self-esteem does not, because ego can often seem arrogant, conceited, maybe a little delusional, where self-esteem is just approaching your life with a positive mindset if you have good self-esteem. But I do agree that ego sounds like a better team.
Yeah. We can ponder that one as we come to other ones. All right. One of the other ones that stood out to me was the La Brea Tar Cats. Anybody who's ever heard of the La Brea Tar Pits knows that it's a great area to see fossils and of all different types in California. And it kind of sticks to that. I don't know. I always think of like the New Britain rock cats of just like, why is this a cat? Well, people like cats. Like that's all it is. You could do anything for I think they have like woolly mammoths in the La Brea Tar Pits,
or saber-toothed
tigers, which I guess would be the tar cat. Yeah.
Yeah, fearsome beast rising out of the tar. He's a little bit stuck on his legs around the tar, but he's clearly getting free of it. That could be intimidating looking.
It could be very intimidating. And then like the fact that it's tar, we could do something fun with the hats, maybe like the bill of the hat is black, but the rest of the hat is something else to be like this.
Sort of like how Inland Empire has like the oil dripping down the numbers, the 66ers.
Yeah, we could do something like that. Doesn't that have to all be hats? I mean, originally when we did this a few years ago, it was to design hats, but now we're kind of in it for everything on this.
We're going with a full-on identity.
Yeah. And that was Brandon LaMarche who submitted that one along with several others, and he is a professional logo designer. which again, we don't have set rules for this, but we're like, can a professional in the field, win this thing? Or
Right.
maybe we can say, hey man, we chose yours. So get to work designing it. We own all the rights. Thank you.
And you have to do it for free. Sorry.
Yeah. And there's no compensation, but we will say your name a bunch more times on the podcast. No, of course not. We are fair and equitable people. But he had a bunch of good ones, and yeah, La Brea Tarcats was one of them for sure.
Ben, any others stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
I know there's so many good ones. Like, that's the problem, is like looking through them like, oh, I could be down with doing literally any of these.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't choose this one just because I feel like it's too close to things we've already seen, but gotta shout out Johnny Bolin.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the podcast.
Former guest.
Who likes the Bourbon Street beignets. And that is one that just jumps right out. But I think one of the reasons it jumps right out in terms of envisioning it is it's kind of like when New Orleans had a team, the Baby Cakes, and then the Biloxi Shuckers had the King Cakes alternate identity this year. And you can kind of see the same thing. A beignet is shaped a little differently, but you just see that, this is one that in my mind is designed by Brandiose and, features an anthropomorphic beignet, kind of scowling, swinging a bat, of course. The powdered sugar, dripping off of it. I mean, it works. It for sure works. But I guess I wouldn't choose that one just because it's hard for me to remove it from things that already seem so established or that have been done before a little bit. But I do like that one a lot and always appreciate hearing from Johnny. And that's a good one. And I like too, like how many cities could you just use a street in the city, but still not have that be too specific? Have everyone get like,
yeah, that's true.
New Orleans,
right?
Like, yeah, that's a cool geographical place name with that one. Also, again, I don't think our coworkers are necessarily eligible to quote unquote win this thing, but our pal Mike Clare, who's been on the podcast before, international baseball. I don't like calling people gurus. International baseball expert. His newsletter and check out his stuff on MLB.com. But he said the Plymouth Rockers, which is a good one because you can come up with some combination of, and I think in his tweet he had some suggestions, but some combination of rock and roll and Plymouth Rock and early arrivals to American shores from England. And how to combine those two things, like a rock and pilgrim. I don't think those Puritans were too into rock music. I mean, they rock music hadn't been invented yet, but like, I don't think they would have liked anything it stood for. But I like that contrast of a wild hedonistic rock and roll pilgrim. And also Kenny Van Doren, another coworker of ours in his first season here with MLB.com. Well, he said the New Jersey Bruces, and I mentioned like, hey, well, Jersey Shores, previously Lakewood, has that long-running Bruce Claus alternate identity, which he was not aware of. But New Jersey Bruces, shout out to Bruce. Even if it didn't use his exact likeness, everyone would know what you're referring to there. And he also said the Liverpool Conies, and Liverpool is a small town just outside of Syracuse, which is home to a famous hot dog shop. I believe it's pronounced Heids. I went there, Heids, I want to say. But they serve Hoffman hot dogs, which is the Syracuse hot dog of choice, and including the white coney style. And so I like that hot dog based identity as well. So I think that's my from the coworkers category. There's a few that stand out.
I had one that popped into my head from Michael Clare's suggestion, which this one obviously we're not going to take because it's one of us suggesting it. But I'm kind of bummed that nobody suggested we did have the Casper ghost suggested. What about the Roanoke ghosts? Roanoke colony that just disappeared. I think that'd be kind of cool. No offense to the 112 to 121 colonists, according to Wikipedia, who disappeared. No offense to any of them. Somewhat similarly along that, well, not really along that time frame, because that was like in the 1500s and this was in the 1700s, but from I don't know what the pronunciation of this would be on Twitter, but Batarish or Batarish, the Chesapeake Ironsides, I think would be very cool. A reference to the USS Constitution, the world's oldest commissioned naval warship still afloat, which was launched in 1797. I think that could be very cool. The USS Constitution was a big factor in the War of 1812, which, You don't know a lot about the War of 1812, but if not for that war, we might be sitting here talking about rounders or like rugby or
I don't know
soccer.
anything about the War of 1812, but we seem
I know
to
the Brits
forget
burned
that,
the
like,
White House.
Yeah, they
didn't
burned.
they?
What the heck was going on?
Yeah.
We're talking about things not going well in today's society, and someone just came onto American shores and burned down the White House. And by someone, I mean the Brits.
The Brits.
Guys, we already beat you once. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Get out. But I don't know. I think the Chesapeake Ironsides, that's a pretty dang cool name. Sam added that it could be located in Annapolis, very historic place, obviously headquarters of the United States Naval Academy, or the location of the United States Naval Academy. That's a good one. I'm going to throw out one other one that I love, just because, and it's also from at Lamarche32 on Twitter. The Durango Mud Kickers. I'm obviously going to be partial to anything that's located in Colorado. Durango is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. I don't know the inspiration behind this, but mud kickers I know is a term for like off-roading tires, and that could be a very cool logo idea. Some of the other quick ones that I enjoyed. This one, I love the alliteration of it. I don't know if there is enough, like, in terms of history or uniqueness that we could throw behind it, but the Walla Walla Wallabies, which was also included from John Ho. As soon as we got that email, I just said Walla Walla Wallabies out loud like 43 times consecutively. If there was something where it was like, oh, Walla Walla happened to be the first town in America to import a wallaby for its zoo or something like that, that would be incredible. And that would make it a very easy tie-in. I'm not sure if that's the case. You could go just like based on the alliteration. I know we've seen teams do that in the past, but it's like when there's no actual tie into it, nah, kind of lame. That one's
Walla
great.
Walla is a former minor league baseball town, too,
right?
In the Pioneer League. I remember I attended the press conference when Cal Ripken and Tony Gwynn were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and asked them both about the start of their professional careers, and Tony Gwynn smiled and he's like, Walla Walla, Washington. He said, like, home of the, what did he say? Home of the, whatever their onion. They're famous for an onion in Walla Walla. Yeah, and today they have a team in the Summer Collegiate West Coast League named the Sweets, which I referenced, I think, the sweet onion. The
sweet onion.
But that's
Vidalia.
Tony Gwynn saying that Walla Walla, Washington, like home of the sweet onion, and he smiled at his memory of starting out in Walla Walla, Washington. I mean, what a great name, and especially because it is Washington, right? I mean, Walla Walla, Washington. Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, are there wallabies there? Probably not, but
they're not quite indigenous to the area, unfortunately.
Yeah, not a deal breaker.
But in the league in which I call college basketball, the University of Missouri at Kansas City, which just goes by Kansas City for their teams, they're called the Roos because the zoo in Kansas City got two kangaroos in the 1930s when they were like looking for a nickname for their speech and debate team. It wasn't even for their athletics teams. And so they came up with the Roos because they were like a cultural phenomenon in Kansas City at the time. And I think that's a fantastic story. I also want to shout out one from Steve Annis, and Steve has been in touch with the show before, but Steve put a lot of ideas or a lot of thought into his idea, which is the Brownsville Greedo. And he said, I know we already had a city in Texas, but I would like to submit Brownsville, Texas with the name of Brownsville Greedo. And here is the explanation. He said, my wife grew up in Brownsville, Texas, and I started going there on a regular basis about 8 years ago and have fallen in love with the food and the culture. Greedo is derived from El Grito, which is a Mexican chant related to Mexican independence. Brownsville is well known for its Mexican culture, and they have a festival every year called Charro Days that celebrates Mexican culture. There's already a Mexican League team there, Charros de Jalisco. I have a hat, but I'm not going to reach up and get it because it's on the top of my wall. So I thought Grito would be appropriate for the Brownsville team. He said the mascot would likely be a vaquero, which is a cowboy with a baseball bat. I think that's to put in that much effort and thought and the history and all of that. Like that's what we're going for. I love that.
That's a good one. I missed that email. I think I hadn't seen that one. I do know Steve. He was my designated eater at Round Rock Express games, and hopefully he would proudly wear an Austin Knights cap, when we get that produced.
Obviously.
And Steve also knows
Round Rock.
He's a radio enthusiast, and he knows how to communicate in Morse code. Neither here nor there, but he's the only person I've ever met who knows Morse code.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Sam is deep in thought over something.
Oh, no, I'm going back to Steve's email.
Okay. I thought you were. I thought you were just like.
Did do some research. He found that there was a team called the Walla Walla Wallabies.
The Walla Walla Sweets have a YouTube thing right now that is the Walla. They wore alternate reality uniforms and became the Walla Walla Wallabies during the series against the Wenatchee Apple Sox on July 6th to 8th in 2018. So it has been done.
Amazing. We did have another submission that has also been done, albeit in a different format, but somebody submitted the Maine Maniacs. That was submitted also by at Lamar's 32. And we learned that the Maine Maniacs was the name, the very confusingly spelled name of a Quebec Major Junior Hockey League team based in Lewiston, Maine. Now, the submission that we got was spelled Maniax. The hockey team spelled it Maine, as in the state, Maineiacs. And apparently, in like the official usage, Maine was capitalized. So it was the Maine, or the Lewiston, Maine, all capitalized, EAX, which just seems extraordinarily confusing. Their logo is like perfectly 90s, except they operated from 2003 to 2011. They played in the Androscoggin Bank Colisée, and then they moved away after 2011. But I had no idea that the Maniacs were a thing, but that's quite a name.
Yeah. I mean, if we get repeats like these, like things that are already out in the world, I just take that as like great minds.
Yeah.
Like everybody's head is in the right space as they're submitting.
Yeah.
And that suggestion there was it would be a lobster Maine logo, a kind of a maniacal lobster, which when we talked before we started taping this episode, I couldn't help but imagine that lobster resembling our friend Josh Jackson. And
not that Josh is a maniac.
He's his own type of maniac.
Yeah, in certain ways.
I mean, less a maniac and more a eccentric, but
Ask Josh about the culinary delight that is the Pazuki, and he turns into a maniac. That's a place from, or that's an item from BJ's restaurant. And if you ask Josh about it, he's not a fan. He turns into a bit of a maniac. Guys, is there anything else you want to highlight? What we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick pause. We're gonna talk some on-field stuff, and then the three of us are gonna return, and we're gonna narrow this down to our chosen winner today. Is there anything else that you guys want to highlight before we wrap up segment number 1?
Man, there's been so many good ones. I mean, we're not going to choose this one, but the climax octopus.
That one's good. I also really want to know the story behind the East Tennessee feral barn cats from at Tyler Craw 00. I can imagine a lot of it, but I really want to know, like, is there a specific feral barn cat that you have been victimized by, or several that need to be honored in this logo?
One we got to that I really liked was Amelia Earhart's, and Earhart's is literally AIR, and then hearts as in the heart. And as far as I could tell, like the town of Amelia has no connection to Amelia Earhart, but that would have been really funny. That's a level of pun I can appreciate and respect.
In addition to the climax octopus, which came from at Ty Moss Secret. I don't know if that's how I should be pronouncing that as well. Maybe that's the last name and it's Ty Mossicret. I don't know. But the Ding Dong Tasty Cakes also listed in there. I don't know. Is Ding Dong is that an actual place, or is that just in reference to, is it really?
All right. Yeah, I remember. All right, let me see.
I had a feeling a lot of people like back engineered these. They were just like, what would be funny? The Ding Dong Tasty Cakes. Let me just type into Google Maps. Is there a Ding Dong anywhere?
Is there a Ding Dong? Yeah.
Incorporated community in Central Texas.
Oh, yeah, but like if they don't make tasty cakes there, we can't just like throw tasty cakes are very obviously like a New Jersey thing, I think.
That's
right?
A Philadelphia thing.
A Philadelphia thing.
Northeast thing. It had a population of 22. In 2000. Okay. So not too many ding dongians. Wow, there's a Ding Dong Dell. So when you're entering Ding Dong, you enter the Ding Dong Dell.
You know what you have to do to get to the Ding Dong Dell, though?
What's that?
You have to go through the Ding Dong Ditch.
When Sam gets that voice, when he puts that voice on, I'm like, here it comes. Here comes the Sam joke. Also, I just want to point out that on our Google Doc, we have all these listed, and then there's one line that just says, so we have the first one's listed that came from social media, and then there's a line that just says emails, and all of these ones came from, and my first thought was like, who suggested the emails? That's a super lame name. And then I realized like, oh no, wait, these ones came from the email format. If we had just like a Silicon Valley word processors or just some extreme nerdy thing like the San Jose emails, be terrible. We can cut this part out of the episode because it's the most pointless thing I've ever said.
This is why we asked for submissions and didn't do it on our own, Tyler. That's why. I think that's what we're learning here.
Whatever, man. The Roanoke ghost would be awesome. The Roanoke disappeared. All right, you guys. I think we got a good we also have to shout out one of our best pals and one of our biggest fans of the show before the show, Lynn Smith, who submitted the West Branch Wackadoodles. I would love to call a team the Wackadoodles on air. West Branch, I believe, New Jersey. No. Oh, there is. Yeah, West Branch, Iowa. Okay.
Yeah, she's from Iowa.
Yeah, she is
Branch,
in Iowa, an Iowan. Now I need to know the term wackadoodles and what the reference is, and if there is a specific reference to West Branch, Iowa, that there could be a tie in there. But I just love the alliteration of that. It's not quite as good as Walla Walla Wallabies, but West Branch Wackadoodles is pretty awesome.
Yeah, she's another one. It appears to be missing from the sheet.
It was the Sater County Fighting Quakers.
Yeah, Fighting Quakers. I like that. I mean, a religion based on pacifism. But these are the Fighting Quakers, ready to rise up from their silent meeting of contemplative worship.
I mean, the University of Pennsylvania, they're known as the Quakers. They're not the Fighting Quakers.
Quaker. But, I mean, big Quaker influence in big parts of the country.
That's a pretty good overview, and a huge thanks to everybody who submitted their selections on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. We're going to step aside, and then we're back to narrow this thing down and choose our winner of the 2024 Create a Team process on the official podcast of Minor League Baseball, the Show Before the Show next.
You don't just live in your home. You live in your neighborhood as well. So when you're shopping for a home, you want to know as much about the area around it as possible. Luckily, Homes.com has got you covered. Each listing features a comprehensive neighborhood guide from local experts. Everything you'd ever want to know about a neighborhood, including the number of homes for sale, transportation, local amenities, cultural attractions, unique qualities, and even things like median lot size and a noise score. Homes.com. We've done your homework.
All right, we had a spirited off-air discussion, and we have chosen our winner. It did not come without some debate, and even, dare I say, some controversy or controversy, if you're a British person. We went very deep trying to figure out if we can make one of these work. But I think we're passing on Superior Self-Esteem, which was a fantastic idea, a great concept. John Ho, we loved it, along with the Kalamazoo Kangaroos, the Walla Walla Wallabies, and all the other ones that John sent in. It would be a lot of fun. And if not for our winner, I think that one probably would have been the choice. But we did narrow down a winner. And gents, who wants to announce it? Ben, I feel like the honor is yours.
Oh, well, okay. We've gone with the submission from, again, I wish I knew exactly how to say his last name, but Jack McGinn. We're going to call him
McGuinn?
McGuinn?
McGuinn.
Yeah, Jack McGuinn.
Yeah.
We'll call you Jack McGuinn.
Might as well call him Jack McWin, seeing as how he picked up the victory here. Am I right, folks? Huh?
And what he suggested, one we talked about in the previous segment, was, drum roll, please. Tyler's doing it. Thank you, Tyler.
Oh, my dog is
Huntington. Our drum rolls are all messed up. Huntington Hellbenders.
Yeah! Go Benders!
Going on a bender.
We're coming up with things where we're like, ooh, I guess that could be a drawback to the identity. No, the Huntington Hellbenders are when I feel like that name just checks all the boxes. A, it's a local thing. Huntington, West Virginia. These salamanders exist in that area. B, it's a thing I had never heard of. I did not know that this was the name of a salamander. So it's like an educational thing as well. C, it is an actual object that you can design an identity around. Whereas every once in a while, it kind of feels like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with different identities and types of things where you think like, yeah, I get that as a concept, but like, does that actually exist in the world? A hellbender really does. D, I think there is a very cool baseball tie-in. Like, yeah, I think if Sam would have named Paul Skeens' Splinker as the Hellbender, I think it would have been fantastic. And instead, he missed that opportunity because, like the rest of us, he didn't know what a Hellbender was. If we go back in time, we had done this episode in like January. I think you probably jump on that. I think you probably go to Paul Skeens and you're like, hey, got something for you, Hellbender, right?
Yeah, maybe I mean, maybe we can still do that. Maybe I will send this episode directly to Paul Skeens.
Just tweet it at him like, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Hey, we had a long discussion of whether it's a two-seamer or a splinker or a sinker or a splitter. I have a new concept.
Especially because, like I said, like Devin Williams already has the coolest named pitch in baseball with the Airbender. I think a Hellbender is like an even cooler variant on that. So it's got like a baseball tie-in, benders as like curveballs or sliders or whatever. That alone is a cool baseball tie-in. I just think this checks all the boxes, man. I dig this a lot.
Well, if you think about it, when you think about a logo and a logo named after some kind of animal or a team named after some kind of animal, in almost all cases, if that animal is going to be depicted playing baseball, got a bat in his hands.
Right.
But I think based on this conversation where a hellbender pitch might not really exist, it's evocative of a pitch that could be thrown. So I think it maybe flips that script a little bit, and the salamander, has just maybe thrown a pitch. There's a ball in front of him with the arc of the ball having, veered in direction suddenly, something like that. I mean, is he pitching? Is this a pitching salamander?
I'm going to give you my concept for the logo, which first I just want to read from the National Zoo, the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. The physical description of the Hellbender is, quote, with their flattened head and body, 4 short, stout legs, long rudder-like tail, and very small beady eyes, things that people often use to describe me. They are well adapted to their swift, flowing stream habitats. Hellbenders retain a few juvenile traits as adults, such as an absence of eyelids and open gill slits. My idea for this logo is the letter H in some form with the Hellbender like curling over the top of the crossbar of the letter H. That's my almost in a pitch like trajectory. You see what I'm doing with my hand there, folks, on this audio episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. You see what I'm doing there? See how like the pitch would move? You see there? That's what I think.
The head is like coming over the bar. It's almost like a high jump situation.
Precisely. And the long rudder like tail, according to the Smithsonian, is like behind the letter H. You see what I'm getting at? See what I'm going for?
I like that a lot, actually. And I think what Ben is talking about is a perfect alternate.
Ooh, yeah. That could be like the sleeve logo.
Yeah, the sleeve logo.
Yeah, like
or
it's throwing the pitch. Yeah.
Because I definitely think we need the main identity is the H, right? We've got 2 H's. We got the Huntington Hellbenders.
Right.
We need something with an H. And I was thinking of like bending the salamander to form an H, but I like what you're doing, Tyler, because we have a solid H with the Hellbender incorporated. But then for the alternate, I do agree with you, Ben. I think we should break that mold a bit. No more swinging of a bat. Let's honor what half of our roster is, which is the pitching side. And, as somebody who evaluates pitchers from time to time, you talk about the flexibility, their athleticism on the mound. I imagine Hellbenders would be incredibly flexible in the way that they're hiding the ball.
Yeah.
But in this case, they would probably be throwing it. I like
throwing it with one of their 4 short, stout legs.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. But like wind behind it that makes it look like it's a sweeper in some ways.
Ooh, I like that idea.
which is
Also,
obviously a pitch.
I mean, Ben noted this a moment ago, but can we think of any logos that are pitching? I know that the St. Louis Cardinals at one time had an alternate logo where the Cardinal was standing with like the ball behind his back. It was supposed to look like Bob Gibson, I believe. I can't think of any pitching logo. Like I know the Greensboro Grasshoppers have had a fielding logo. I can't think of any pitching logos.
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head. Certainly not in the world of minor league baseball.
Yeah.
There's the animal or whatever the logo
It's kind of
is.
lame, right? Like Sam said, like that's half the roster. Why isn't that? We're not encouraging kids to become pitchers. We're just saying, like, you know, fans dig the long ball. You got to be a hitter. No.
Well, I think that's part of it. Yeah, people like. I think the main reason for a casual fan to go to the game is to see the ball get hit really far, as opposed to see the guys not hit a ball. So I think there's just like a stronger tie-in, but also, pitchers don't have they wear a glove like anyone else in the field, but they like a bat is a standalone piece of equipment.
True.
And pitchers don't, carry any.
Yeah, it's not quite as exciting to see like a glove in action. Yeah, that's true.
A glove, but then you can incorporate the baseball itself, into a pitching logo. And yeah, as I said, if that's an alternate, show that it is has a heavy break on the ball.
I like this a lot.
Yeah. Just looking at some logos, there are the Hickory Crawdads, which is an H team also, kind of has this look to it with an H with like the crawdad is behind it.
Right.
And it's kind of worming its way. Or this would be a completely different look.
And that's like their old logo, correct? Well, I guess they still use that as an alternate, I think. But yeah, it's like the crawdad is almost like it's like grabbing onto the H, not like coming through it. Yeah, so that's kind of different.
Yeah, it's trying to hide behind the H. This is we want something a little bit more jumping at you.
Right.
Yeah, and a further tie-in or connection between these two logos is that, my crash course on learning about hellbenders just a few moments ago, they're one of their main sources of food are crawdaddies.
Oh, interesting.
So they
are creating rivalries.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a natural rivalry.
Yeah, so they are known for these salamanders walk on the bottom of these streams and feast on crawfish, crayfish, crawdaddies, whatever you call them, wherever you are from regionally. I don't know if we incorporate a crawdaddy in the logo, but yeah, they eat a lot of crawdads. So sorry, Hickory, these hellbenders are coming for you, and they're going to devour you.
And then for color scheme here, I think we have to go with like a red or a yellow.
Okay.
Just to tie into what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Then about it, like tying into the hell part of it. I mean, part of me thinks of Huntington and I immediately think of Marshall University. But the Coal Cats, who we talked about before, who are joining the Appy League this year, the Tri-State Coal Cats, they are using green and black and white and trying to lean into coal, but also an homage to Marshall. So we don't want to tread on their ground. I would go more like a tequila sunrise type situation with red, yellow, and brown.
You know what I think is a really good tie-in with this is Huntington, West Virginia, and West Virginia at large is one of those areas where it's like if you go there in the fall, the foliage, like the red and yellow and orange of the trees in West Virginia, I think you could make that an easy tie-in where that's where you get the inspiration. And it also perfectly feeds the idea of the hellbenders. And, maybe we throw in like a little moody dark green for something that lives in streams and such. Lives in, where did I see the actual description of where it lives? Swift running, well oxygenated, unpolluted streams and rivers. Obviously, we have to capture the well oxygenated part in this logo.
Yeah, and the branding. I mean, I know we're not actually creating a team, but it ties into
not yet.
Yeah, the team, then being an advocate for local waterways, natural wildlife, protecting the natural beauty of their area. In this case, Huntington. So I think that's a good tie-in. This is totally random. I was just looking at the Huntington, West Virginia Wikipedia page. One of the notable natives of Huntington is former Major League Baseball catcher Steve Yeager, who was on the Dodgers for like 15 seasons. and he is perhaps best known for inventing the throat protector for catchers.
Interesting.
And so I'm thinking, like, is there a little Easter egg where he had the salamander has a little
that's pretty cool.
Or a little bit
that could be another
armor.
alternate logo.
I feel like that's another alternate.
The Hellbender is
because we have the pitcher and then we have the catcher.
Yeah,
there's not really many catcher logos either.
Yeah,
you could put one on one sleeve and one on the other.
Yeah, protect
the yin and yang, the alpha and omega of a pitch.
Yeah, protect your neck.
I just want to read this just to be even more weirded out by Hellbenders. I just want everyone to know that, quote, the lifespan of a Hellbender in the wild is thought to be up to 25 years. They can live considerably longer in human care. Considerably longer. So, I don't know, add 15 years to that. Like, you could get a Hellbender in high school and have it until you're almost 60. That's horrifying. These things, they're
I mean, good for the species,
good for the Hellbender.
Yeah.
Man, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, if your concern
like
is having a pet live too long, then do not get a Hellbender. If you're going to adulthood, man, I like this when I was a kid.
Also, we don't know how good they are as pets.
That's true. That's true. They are they're nocturnal, which seems like it'd be really annoying as a pet owner, where you're like, I'm not nocturnal. Why do you have to be just only doing stuff at night? Otherwise known as cats. Man, I just very much like this. All right,
so let's lock in a color scheme here, just so we can give more instruction to Vince Pettifrezzo, who's going to be designing this. Hopefully, we have to reach out to we have to ask him to do. He did a tremendous job on the Austin Knights.
During the break, Ben was like, by the way, have we mentioned this to Vince? Sam was like, no, we have not.
We'll reach out to him. We'll give him as much time as he needs. We're not going to be like, it might
we
be
need this by next
until
week. Yeah.
And if you can't do it, no obligation. We can't just throw this on someone's plate. We'll find somebody.
We'll make it work somehow.
We are really good buddies with Todd Radom, longtime legendary sports designer. We could just throw this at Todd and be like, hey, obviously you're one of the most famous graphic designers in the history of sports. Can you do this for us for free for a podcast?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't afford Todd Radom. I don't know what you're making on your podcasting salary there, Tyler, but
he came up with a logo for my wedding for free. But I don't think that's quite the same level of detail.
That's not for public consumption. And
okay,
the Montramonies.
Yeah,
my thought is, like a combination red, yellow, orange, and then like a dark, moody, foresty, maybe with like a hint of brown, kind of green.
Yeah,
so
I think brown like has to kind of be in here somewhere.
Yeah, not like 4 colors, although I guess it's possible we could do something like that. I'm a fan of like 3 colors max. So maybe some sort of like red, orange, and orangey yellow. And then like a greenish brown that's more, I would say like 80% green, 20% brown, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then what color are we going to make the H itself?
So I think the H has to be the red, orange, yellow. And then I think the Hellbender, he's got to be on the green side, or she.
He's got to be the greenish brown. And then the hat itself, I think the hat should be darker and then the H should be lighter.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. So I think the hat could even be like a similar green to the Hellbender itself. And then maybe we outline the Hellbender on the hat with like a yellow or something. The hat is definitely a dark color because the Hellbender is a dark color. I also think one thing that could be cool, it refers to the very small beady eyes, which, like I said, same. If we make those yellow or something that sticks out, that's like a little frightening, like it's coming at you out of the dark because it's nocturnal.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we do the hat is red, the darker red.
Oh, okay.
The H is yellow.
Okay.
So it pops. And then the salamander is the brownish green, which is like actually the color of a Hellbender.
Oh, I could be into that for sure.
So that accent worked really well. The yellow pops off the red.
And I think if you hear the term Hellbender and you see a red hat, you're like, yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, I get it, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
How are you feeling about that, Ben?
I think that because I was just Googling the late lamented Florida fire frogs because for some reason that overall scheme and look kind of reminded me a little of the direction we go. But yeah. I like what you guys are saying.
And then we do.
When I had the idea of like, oh, the Hellbender should be coming through the logo, I actually did kind of think of Florida because the Fire Frog wasn't coming through a logo, but it was like in action. And it was, it was leaping. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And then I think for the uniforms, we do red for home, but then Huntington is in, or the Hellbenders is in yellow, but with the outline of the brown.
Oh, so you want a red jersey?
Well,
a home red jersey.
I mean,
I think
do like that.
Here's my idea: is a classic home white, but I think we have an alternate that's red, and instead of Hellbenders, it just says Benders.
I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah, and that
Maybe
one
that's
could
what
have
we're
the
talking
alternate
about.
logos too.
Yes.
All right,
There we
Vince, we've got 19 different jersey options that we need you to get on. The logos as well. Man, I like this one a lot. I mean, I loved Austin Knights, obviously. I love this one. I think this is fantastic.
This is great because it's a different part of the country, which is great. It's an educational experience for all of us.
Yeah.
And
this checks all the boxes.
Yeah. So I'm happy with this.
I'm very into it. Yeah. And a huge thanks to our new buddy Jack. And obviously, Jack, we're going to have you on to discuss your identity once we come up with it. And then you can tell us how to correctly say your last name. I'm going to go with McGuinn.
McGuinn, yeah. It's at Quilltip Design on Twitter. And follow his academic pursuits via minor league baseball. And
he's a big ice cream and nacho helmet guy.
Yeah.
Which we know a lot of.
Go-getter. Generation Alpha, maybe?
Yeah, might be.
Yes,
yeah.
Holy cow. We are
The kids
so
are all
old.
right.
Yeah. I like that. Well, this has been fantastic. And we're going to continue to dive into it and explore the next generation of the show before the show's Create a Team project. And for now, we'll step aside. Josh Jackson swings by with Ghosts of the Miners, and then we're back to wrap it up next.
This is a typical window air conditioning unit. And this is the Windmill Smart Air Conditioner. Introducing the perfect AC designed for city living, the Windmill Smart Air Conditioner. They've built a better window air conditioner from scratch. It's beautiful, quiet, and the Times called it the easiest AC they've ever installed. Simple technology and simple setup. Shop now at windmillair.com. That's windmillair.com.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club or player hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One once basked in the sun on fields of green. The others exist only in the shadows of imagination. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball players did at one time exist. A. Crook Smoots. B. Snake Henry. C. Turtle Harris. There's no rattling your confidence if you picked B. Snake Henry, who, despite his nickname, stood tall among pro ball players for multiple decades. All of you fans of the 1922 and 1923 Boston Braves no doubt remember Henry. He played in 29 games for the club over those 2 seasons. The rest of us have many more memories of Snake in the minors. He debuted at age 18 with the 1914 Greensboro Patriots of the North Carolina State League and kept right on playing until he logged 11 games with the Kinston Eagles of the Coastal Plains League 25 years later in 1939. 43 at the time, Henry was the manager of that team and had helmed another team in the same league the previous 2 seasons, as well as having managed the 1934 Hartford Senators of the Northeastern League. There was a reason, however, that he got only 11 games into that final season in pro ball as both a player and manager. During a May 15 game against the Greenville Greenies, umpire Tom Lane ruled that the Kinston third baseman was pulled off the bag by a throw at a forced play at the hot corner, and that the Greenies runner was therefore safe. The ump, however, was not so safe. By all accounts, Snake's response to the call was anything but scaled down. In fact, his reaction appears to have been totally out of character. Snake may have been suffering from reptile dysfunction. Per the official report from the Office of Minor League Baseball President W.G. Bramham, Henry pushed the umpire, kicked him in the groin with a knee, stomped on his feet, and used profanity. Also, Henry failed to leave promptly when ordered off the field and made threats to get the umpire after the game. Snake's attack reportedly went on for almost a full minute, and his venom spread to the fans, prompting what the press described as a near riot, which necessitated the calling of extra police to the park to protect the umpires. The final result? Snake had to go away with his tail between his legs. He was suspended for 120 playing days, which not only went through the remainder of the 1939 Coastal Plains League season, but into the next year. And Snake was forbidden fruit in the Garden of Working Anywhere in so-called organized baseball throughout his suspension period. But who exactly was Snake Henry? Where did he come from? What was he known for before the violent incident? How did he think about himself? And who am I? Who are you? Who are any of us? And do we even matter? Apologies, talking about Henry can bring about of ennui. But Henry's career was actually filled with good times. The lefty hitting first baseman batted better in 300, better in 9 times, in 10 seasons to be precise, but that one day his worst self got the better of him. And that's how Snake was removed from the grass. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these teams gave opponents a scare in the minors of yesteryear? A. The Terrell Terrors. B. The Hainesville Haunts. C. The Stillwater Spirits. Want to know the answer? Hold the seance. Or tune into the next Ghost of the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill asked me if I want to come over for a barbecue, and I've got to marinate.
Big thanks as always to Josh Jackson for swinging by with this week's episode of Ghost of the Minors, a fantastic one, if I say so myself. And we're going to say goodbye after this week's episode of Name That Dude. On this week's episode of the show, the dude is mine, and the guessing is Ben's and Sam's, and thus we shall commence. This gentleman, drafted by the Montreal Expos in the 6th round of the 1992 MLB draft, he proceeded to make his professional debut in the 1992 season. He played 54 games for the GCL Expos, who played in West Palm Beach, Florida. 1993, as an 18-year-old, he moved up to the Burlington Bees. Shout out to Lynn Smith again in the Midwest League. He was back in West Palm Beach for the then Class A Advanced West Palm Beach Expos, not to be confused with the GCL Expos, who played under essentially the same name and at the same place. That was in 1994. 1995, a couple of teams, Harrisburg at Double-A after making the jump from West Palm Beach. He was back in Harrisburg in 96. And then in 97, finally made his big league debut with the Montreal Expos at 22 years old. He proceeded to play through 2004 with the Montreal Expos and then made the move with the Expos to Washington, where he played in 2005 and 2006. He finished his career in 2008 in his second season with the Seattle Mariners. 3-time Major League All-Star, a Silver Slugger, and he actually got MVP votes back in 2002 with the Expos. This is one of those guys who you were going to think like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. He was really good for a while. I'm going to kick it off.
I'm still a little bit hung up just on Burlington, Iowa was an Expos affiliate in the 90s there.
It was.
You sure that's not Burlington,
Bees.
Vermont?
No, it was the Burlington Bees, Burlington,
That's
Iowa.
interesting because obviously, Burlington, Vermont had the Vermont.
Right, the Lake Monsters.
And they were the Expos.
And they were they were a Class A short season affiliate. This was a Midwest League team. Okay. Back in 1993. He played
on this podcast
76 games there.
The last professional team named the Expos was the Vermont Expos, who lasted, I think, a season after the team moved to Washington, D.C. Anyway, so I was like, wait.
Yeah, no.
Another Burlington in the Montreal system.
This gentleman did play 2 other stints in Canada in 1997 and 1998. He played with the AAA Ottawa Lynx.
Back when the International League was truly the International League.
Right. I feel as though this is difficult to nail down, so I have some hints that I can give you, but I want to let you...
Power guy?
No. No, 128 career home runs in 12 years. So not bad, but like his career high was 24 in the year 2000.
When I think of like forgotten Expos, I think of Jose Vidro.
Oh, well, Sam got it on the first guess.
Wow.
Boom.
Holy cow, Sam. Nice
I always
work.
thought Jose Vidro was underrated.
Dude, very good player. You look at Jose Vidro's career numbers, 298, 359, 445, his career slash line. He homered 128 times. But there were some seasons in there. In 2000, he slashed 330, 379, 540. For a 918 OPS. He was an all-star that year. 2002, he was an all-star and received at least one MVP vote. He finished in the top 25, but he slashed 315, 378, 490 with 19 homers. The following year, 310, 397, 470. He was an all-star and a silver slugger. But what I was going to say, the unique thing, and it's not super unique across baseball, but you might not be familiar with it if you're just a casual fan. He's from Puerto Rico. He was born in Mayaguez. He went to high school in Sabana Grande, but because he is from Puerto Rico, he can be drafted. He's eligible to be drafted. Puerto Rico has been part of the MLB draft for 30 years or so now. So it's kind of a unique thing because sometimes you'll think, oh, well, a draft guy's got to be from the States. That's not the case. He can be from Canada. He can be from Puerto Rico. But yeah, Jose Vidro, who is coming up on his 50th birthday, by the way, in August, in case you want to feel old, played his last game August 4th of 2008 with the Seattle Mariners, but a really good player, just like a very good. Jose Vidro is one of those guys who and I feel like we've mentioned this from time to time on Name That Dude, but he would come up and you'd be like, oh, this guy again. If you weren't an Expos or Nationals fan, you're like, got to deal with Jose Vidro again. He's going to put this at bat into 13 pitches and then just crush a double.
Yeah, well, no, that was a great pick.
Sam, I'm impressed.
Gotten that one. I mean, once he said the name, I was like, oh yeah, that guy. But
yeah,
I was nowhere near that. I was thinking in eras either too recent or too long ago.
I was thinking what's a very random team? How about the 2002 Montreal Expos, who actually were pretty good?
Well, because
83 and 79, second in the division.
I was thinking when you first said Expo, because Ben, you and I were talking about this the other day. I added Marquise Grissom Jr. to the Nationals top 30 list. And one of the things researching that and things that's come up in some discussions is isn't it kind of cool? Marquise Grissom was drafted by the Expos and all that, but I'm like, he played for more teams. I don't think he ever made more than one all-star team. He didn't make three. And the other thing that we looked up was that he played for Jacksonville and not
Harrisburg.
Not Harrisburg. So
I just want to point out that earlier this year, and I may have told this story already on the Show Before the Show podcast, but earlier this year I confirmed one of the greatest, one of my favorite baseball fun facts by getting a chance at the Andre Dawson Classic to ask Marquise Grissom if in fact he was named after the Mercury Marquis, and he was. His father worked at a Ford plant for 30 some years. And so loved the company and his work there and everything else that Ford had just rolled out the Mercury Marquis, and he thought, I like that name. I want to name my son that. Right around the same time that Marquise Grissom was born. Marquise Grissom was born on April 17th, 1967. He now does so much in young player development and youth engagement with MLB. Could not have been cooler. Xavier Scruggs and I had him on during the Andre Dawson Classic broadcast. And as soon as we got done, I was like, man, I have to ask you this question. Were you actually named after the Mercury Marquis? And he was like, yeah, I was. My dad worked at the Ford plant for 36 years or something like that and liked the name and named me that. And I was very happy to confirm that.
And I do feel bad. I said I don't think he's been an all-star more than once. He was an all-star twice. So
okay.
Good for Marquise.
Another guy who's just like a very, very good player.
Yeah. Jose Vidro and Marquise Grissom. What could have been for the Expos?
Yeah. He finished top 13 in MVP voting 4 times and top 9 twice. 4-time Gold Glove Award winner. 2-time All-Star. Marquise Grissom, fantastic player. And a guy who's doing a lot of really great work with MLB right now. Man, that was a fun episode. It was a very fun episode. I like it. And again, a huge thanks to everybody for getting in touch, sending your stuff along for this year's edition of Creating a Team. We had a blast.
Yeah. And if anyone has any suggestions about the Huntington Hellbenders that we might have missed,
we'll take those.
Yeah, send us your suggestions.
especially if you have suggestions for how we tell Vince, like, hey, we got a lot of work for you. And we're not going to pay you anything extra. But again, a massive thanks to everybody who got in touch, and a big congrats to our new pal, Jack McGuinn. And that'll do it on this week's episode of The Show Before the Show. For Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill, Josh Jackson, and all the rest, my name is Tyler Maughan, and we'll catch you next week.
Looking for a job is lonely. Endless searching, phone calls that go nowhere, applications that vanish into thin air. What if you could link with dozens of local companies who are hiring right now with just one connection? That's Express Employment Professionals. Find us at expresspros.com. One connection, endless opportunities, and no fees ever for job seekers. Express Employment Professionals. expresspros.com.